Thanks for checking out this show review. So this is for the 2021 show Behind the Monsters. It's a documentary style show. It's a Shudder original and it's coming to Shudder on Wednesday, October 27th. That's when the first episode drops. There will be 6 total episodes and each episode will focus on a different iconic horror character, and I will tell you who they are. They end up being Michael Myers, Candyman, Chucky, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and Pinhead, the biggest names in horror, basically, as far as like iconic villains go. So I think this is a show a lot of people are going to be able to get behind just because the nostalgia factor, the interest in just hearing people talk about these characters, the insight that you can also pull out of this from people involved in it, people who played the characters, all that wonderful stuff. And then people from the outside who are kind of more kind of horror nerds within the community who it's kind of their job to kind of look at these films and take them apart and look at the minute details. So I think people are really going to enjoy this overall. It is well done, and I do highly recommend it. I'll give my star rating at the end. This one's written and directed by Gabrielle Binkley and Anthony Uro. And like I said, 6 episodes. They're going to be coming out in consecutive weeks. So the first one is Wednesday, October 27th. So it's going to be every Wednesday going after that. So for 6 weeks, you'll be getting these episodes. I plan on finishing it off. This review is just based on the first half of the season. So it's Michael Myers, Candyman, and Chucky are the first 3 in that order. Those are so number 1's Michael Myers, number 2 is Candyman, and number 3 is Chucky. I don't know what the order is after that, but I will finish it off because I'm very much into it. And I'm a big, horror documentary guy. I love horror documentaries. I actually have reviews for some horror documentaries on my channel, so you can take a look for those. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but you can take a look. I think I actually have an entire playlist for that, so you can check that out. Really, there's no synopsis to it. It's just basically, like I said, people being interviewed about these horror icons and them kind of looking at the horror icons, why they're so iconic, talking about their films, intercutting it with actual clips from the films to kind of keep the audience more entertained. But getting a lot of voices involved with it, from, like I was saying, people actually involved, people actually played the characters, and then also people who kind of are within the horror community and just kind of, that's what they do for a job. They like analyze horror in essence, and those are some of the most interesting ones because those are the people who really break things down. Although people actually involved have a lot of interesting things to say. Overall, there is a lot of great stuff that's introduced, not just stuff that's good for nostalgia purposes, even though there's a lot of that, but also like really giving you some information that you didn't know, like some behind the scenes type stuff, which the title of the series would indicate, such as, I'm not going to give you specifics, but like knowing what people were thinking when they were creating the characters, what it was like to play the characters, the process of kind of being that character and bringing them onto the film. Also, just some little tidbits of knowledge that are just kind of interesting, fun trivia facts as well. So I really like that aspect of it, and for that reason, it's very fun. I think people are really going to enjoy it for those reasons. Now, the runtime of these kind of ranges, once again, I can only base this off the first 3 episodes. So the Michael Myers one is about 45 minutes, the Candyman one is about 35, and the Chucky one's about 32. So it's going to range. They weren't going for one runtime, but that's a good thing. I love when they just go the runtime that they need instead of being like, oh, well, we need to make them all 45 minutes or we need to make them all an hour, because then things can really drag. And for that reason, the episodes don't drag. They're kind of bite-sized. You get enough, you get that great information that you're looking for from it, and then they're done. You're free to move on with your day. So I like the fact that they didn't try to hold to one runtime. The intro has a very cool artistic aesthetic. You'll see what I mean when you watch it, which obviously I highly recommend you do watch it. Very cool intro. Like I said, they do a good job of kind of intercutting actual pieces of the film and pictures of like behind the scenes stuff as well going on. The mixture of who is interviewed works for the most part, but with some of the people, I kind of wonder why they're involved because they're not even really tied to the material. Some of the people I understand, like, people who are involved with a podcast based around horror, or people who work for a horror magazine or something. Like, I get that. That makes sense. But there are a few random people who pop up here and there where you're just like, why are they in this talking about this? And it must just be a situation where they have a good relationship with the people who made this, and they were kind of like, hey, I'd like to be interested. I'd like to be involved in that because I'm interested. And they were like, oh yeah, sure, we'll have you in here, because otherwise the connection is not there, and you're just kind of like, why are we hearing from this person? But there are plenty of people where you're like, I understand why we're hearing from these people. It's interesting to hear the backstory and analysis of these iconic horror characters, but it also hits that nostalgia sweet spot as well. There's so much of that nostalgia in it, and I think that's what a lot of people are going to like most about it. But for me, I'm such a nerd about it that I want to hear like the little trivia tidbits that I was like, oh, I had no idea about that, or analysis of the character where I was like, I never thought about it that way. And there were some of those moments that I really, really enjoyed with it. They also talk about the ups and downs of the characters and their films, as far as like good and bad sequels. I think that's mainly talked about in one of these episodes that I watched, and you can probably figure out which one that is. But um, I like that. I like that they don't just talk about, the interesting aspect of the character and why the character came to be and how it came to be, but they talk about popularity and kind of where the films went with that character and what the significance of that is for popularity purposes, but also for purposes of the overall story arc of the character and development of the character, if there is or isn't. The best aspect is the talk about why each character resonates and is unique. That's one of my favorite little bits that they touch on in every single one of the episodes. So very much a fan of that. I do have to say that the Candyman episode really does stand out to me of the first three as being my favorite, because it's deeper, which makes sense just because the film itself, the original Candyman from 1992, is deeper. It is a much deeper film, and actually, I do need to note that at this point, I have a very in-depth analysis review of the original Candyman film on my channel when this is going up, so you can check that out. And I really put a lot of work into that. That one actually made me feel exhausted when I was done. Also, partially because I talk nonstop for over half an hour. I think it's like close to 33 minutes, but check that out as a good companion piece. So, and also know that I put it out before seeing this. So any sort of similarities in, analysis of the film is purely coincidental. But Candyman, so good. And the reason I love it, obviously, well, part of it is also I just recently watched Candyman again, so I think that's another part of it. But it also served to get me more interested in other films. Like, every single one of them I watched made me be like, oh, I think I'd like to rewatch these films again. Especially Chucky, because I've only seen a few Chucky films. I've seen the first one, I've seen Curse, and I've seen Cult, and that's it. Now, I know some people are screaming at their screens right now, being like, oh my gosh, you haven't seen, like, Bride or Seed. How is that even possible? Yeah. Haven't been the hugest Chucky fan, but watching their episode about Chucky really piqued my interest a lot more, because they talk about him in a very interesting light, and there's so much more to that character that I'm now more intrigued. So I love that aspect of it as well. Like I said, it makes you want to watch these movies. So during the end credits, they actually do something fun with the time, so you're not just looking at people's names, which is important though. But they have kind of portions of interviews that don't really fit into the actual episode. Usually it's ones that are kind of like light and funny or fun, so I like that aspect of it as well. And random thought to close all this out. I could listen to Tony Todd talk all day. Now, it's not just from the standpoint of his iconic, awesome to listen to voice. That is a small part of it. But I've listened to interviews with Tony Todd, and he is a fascinating person. And the way he picks apart his character of Candyman as well, very, very interesting. I love listening to that guy. Another person who I immediately was like, I need to hear more of this person talking, which I've already heard a good amount of them talking in the horror noir documentary, which if you haven't seen, you should definitely see. And that's Tananarive Due. Her knowledge, her ability to dive in an academic way into these films and characters, I love it. I'm jealous. I mean, really, I'm jealous of like how smart she is when it comes to this stuff. So, Tony Todd and Tanana Rive do. I could listen to you two all day long. Ooh, I can't imagine like putting them in the same room and like having them talk. Even better. Film someone do that and film that. I need it. Anyway, so overall with 5 stars in play, 5 stars possible, half stars in play. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna give this a very good 4-star rating. It's not like 5-star material, but it is very good. I'm gonna give it very solid 4. Technically speaking, they did well. You know, directing was good. They set up their shots well. Everything was lit well. The sound was good. I know there have been documentaries I watched where the sound is a little messed up or the lighting's messed up, but no, they did a good job. So technically speaking, they knew exactly what they were doing. So very interested to see the other 3 episodes of this, and I would love to see an additional season. And I'm just going to say right now, if anyone involved with it sees this, please do one on the tall man from Phantasm. Please. I know he's a much lesser appreciated villain, but I think for that reason, be great for a season 2. I need the tall man from Phantasm to be involved. Anyway, that's it. Put some comments down there. You can go ahead and do spoilers. That's fine, because you know, when you can actually talk about it for the most part is when it'll be available on Shudder. So let's go ahead and talk in the comments and just talk about these films in general. That's fine as well. Do me a quick favor, hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you have already, you're awesome and thank you. If you haven't already, it is quick, it is painless, it costs you no money, and it's your way to say thank you to me, because I'm not making money or anything doing this. Just doing it for the love of creating a kind of nerdy online horror community of people I can talk to about horror, because where I live, not that fortunate. But anyway, please subscribe. But regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this video. And until next time, keep it brutal.